Hello all, welcome to the new session. I am Prajita, Assistant Professor, PG Department of English from E-Content Development Center, Majalis Arts and Science College, Puramannu. Here I am introducing a poem, Strange Meeting, that is written by the famous British author Wilfred Owen. It is included in second semester PG under the University of Calicut. After watching this video, the learner will be able to understand the theme and the structure of the poem. Before moving on to the poem, let's see the author. Wilfred Edward Salter Owen was born in Shropshire on 18th March 1893 in England. After the death of his grandfather in 1897, the family moved to Birkenhead, where Owen was educated at the Birkenhead Institute. After another move in 1906, he continued his studies at the Technical School in Shrewsbury. Interested in the arts at a young age, Owen began writing poetry as a teenager. In 1911, Owen matriculated at London University, but after failing to receive a scholarship, he spent a year as a lay assistant to a vicar in Oxfordshire. In 1913, he went on to teach in France at the Berlitz School of English, where he met the poet laureate Calicut. He returned from France in 1915 and enlisted in the Artists' Rifles. After training in England, Owen was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Manchester Regiment in 1916. The horrors of warfare, the physical landscapes that surrounded him, and the human body in relation to those landscapes. His verses stand in stark contrast to the patriotic poems of war written by earlier poets of Great Britain, such as Rupert Brooke. A gay man, Owen also often celebrated male beauty and commentary in his poems. While few of Owen's poems appeared in print during his lifetime, the collected poems of Wilfred Owen with an introduction by Sasso was published in December 1920. Owen has since become one of the most admired poets of World War I. A review of Owen's poems published on December 29, 1920, just 2 years after his death, read, "Others have shown the disenchantment of war, have unlegended the rose light and romance of it, but none with such compassion for the disenchanted, nor such sternly just and justly stern judgment on the idlers." Owen wrote Strange Meeting sometime during 1918 while serving on the Western Front, though the poem was not published until 1990, after Owen had been killed in battle. The poem's speaker, who is also a soldier, has descended to hell. There he meets a soldier from the opposing army, who reveals at the end of the poem that the speaker was the one who killed him. The poem is deeply pessimistic as it reflects on the shared humanity of those two men and the border horrors of war. Though the poem suggests that human beings aren't going to stop fighting anytime soon, it also calls for such violence to be replaced by reconciliation and solidarity. Seemed like he escaped from battle down into a very deep dark tunnel, a tunnel that had been carved out of the granite bedrock by some enormous vase in the past. Even in the tunnel, he found people mourning and suffering. They were either too deeply asleep to be stirred, or they were already dead. Then, as he poked and prodded them, one of the sleepers jumped up and started at me. He seemed to recognize me, and he pitied me. He lifted his hands sadly, as if he were going to bless me, and he could tell from his lifeless smile that the dark hall in which we stood was hell itself. You could see all the fear etched into his face, even though none of the blood or violence from the battle up above reached the hall where we stood. You couldn't hear the artillery firing down there. The guns didn't make the chimneys in the hall groan. I said to him, "Unfamiliar friend, there is no reason to be sad down here." And he replied, "No reason except for all the years I am missing out on and the loss of hope. You and I had the same hopes, and he threw myself into seeking the most beautiful thing in the world." And he was not talking about physical beauty. This beauty makes fun of time and it steadily passes by. If this beauty is sad, its sadness is so much richer than the sadness you find down here. And if he hadn't died, his happiness might have made a lot of other people happy too, and even his sadness. He would have left something important behind, something that cannot survive down here. And he was taking about truth itself and the truth that no one talks about. The horrors of war boiled down to its horrifying essence. Since he didn't get to tell people how horrible war is, people will be happy with the destructive things our armies have done, or they will be unhappy and they will get so angry that they will keep fighting and killing each other. They will be as fast as tigers, and no one will speak out or disagree with their governments, even though those governments are moving society away from progress rather than towards it. And he was full of courage and mystery. He was full of wisdom and expertise. And he wouldn't have to watch the world as it moves backwards, marching onto cities that foolishly don't have fortifications. If the wheels of their armed vehicles were to get clothed with blood, he would go wash them with water from pure wells. And he would wash them with truths too profoundly true to be corrupted. He would do everything he possibly could to help, except for fighting, except for taking part in more horrible war. In war, even those who aren't physically hurt suffer from mental trauma. And he was the enemy soldier you killed, my friend. And he recognized you in the park. You frowned when you saw me in just the same way as you frowned yesterday. And when you killed with me with your bayonet, I tried to fend you off, but my hands were slow and clumsy. Let's Rest Now. Owen's strange meeting deals with the atrocities of World War I. The poem was written sometimes in 1918 and was published in 1919 after Owen's death. The poem is narrated by a soldier who goes to the underworld to escape the hell of the battlefield, and there he meets the enemy soldier he killed the day before. This poem has been described as one of the most haunting and complex war poems. The poem is the final one of Owen's poems set in the War Requiem of Benjamin Britten. It is sung by the tenor and baritone soloists accompanied by chamber orchestra. Joined at the closing line, "Let us sleep now," by the full force of orchestra, organ and soprano soloist, mixed chorus and children. Hope all of you understood this video. Thank you for watching this video.